What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we had some bad news for the Xbox, as it looks like Microsoft's big 2022 release is actually falling into 2023, which of course leading to a lot of questions around what Microsoft has planned now for this year, and we're going to go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a bit of a surprise game announcement here for the Switch, and Capcom looks to be gearing up for a big year coming up, which I have to assume is completely Mega Man related. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with 505 Games, as it looks like they have their own showcase coming up here in about a week or so. We can see this posted up over on their website, that being the 505 Games Spring 2022 showcase. They say, we're thrilled to announce our first ever 505 Games digital showcase taking place May 17th. That'll be 6 a.m. Pacific time or 9 a.m. Eastern time over on the official 505 Games YouTube channel. This is the first event of its kind in 505 Games' 15-year history, and we want to invite you all to join us. And of course, a lot of people are asking, what are they going to show here? No one really knows. I mean, there are a few deals that 505 has in place, specifically with Remedy. So Control 2, I guess that could be shown here in some way, maybe a CGI trailer. The other one would be that Project Condor game that's supposed to be a multiplayer spin-off in the Control universe. Again, maybe a CGI trailer. That was like recently announced, I think less than a year ago. I think it was like last June. So would they have something ready to show now? It's hard to say. Really, I think a lot of us are just going to go into this not knowing what to expect and then maybe being surprised with a reveal or two, but we'll find out next week. Also, we do know that there is a Dead Space remake that should be releasing here from EA, and now we do have that release date. And it was really interesting because you've been able to follow the development for this game basically since it was announced, as they've done updates on YouTube showcasing the entire development process almost with some very in-depth looks at the development, extremely transparent around this, showing it off in like the worst state possible at times, no textures, nothing. But we can see this over on their website. Dead Space available January 27th, 2023. In fact, the date itself was revealed during one of these developer live streams. It's like, yeah, it's coming out end of January. So I know we talk about release dates being revealed and then still getting delayed back, but the fact that we've seen this game basically being developed in real time on these different live streams gives me a lot of confidence in this game coming out at that time, and also the developers' confidence in what they're creating, since they're just showing it completely raw during development. So exciting stuff here, especially for Dead Space fans, seeing that remake coming out in about 7 or 8 months. Oh, and it does look like there's another PlayStation 5 model that was spotted. We can see this posted up by VGC. Sony appears to have registered a new PS5 model in Japan. The CFI 1200 series console includes updated radio equipment according to a listing. We've seen like a different revision of the PS5. If you remember, that was the whole thing with the heatsink inside, where it was like smaller, so it must be worse overall. Turns out not really at all. So in this case, they could have been doing some updates on different parts of the hardware, and they have to register. Maybe they changed like the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth stuff out, and that's how you end up with this model number. There have been talks from Sony that they are trying to revise the PlayStation 5 system itself internally, outside of just like the radio stuff. They would be looking towards the board or the chip because they want to be able to produce more PlayStation 5s. And in their mind, they got to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to do that from a system level with that chip. Some talks that they would actually be shrinking the chip, going to different fabrication, all these different things. For now, though, it's possible this could just be something where they had to update the Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi and had to run it back through with the new model. But I'm sure someone will pick this one up and tear it down, and we can see if the heatsink is the same size or not. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the big delay that has now hit Xbox and their holiday season. We can see this posted up over on the Bethesda Twitter account, saying we've made the decision to delay the launches of Redfall and Starfield to the first half of 2023. The teams at Arcane Austin, that being for Redfall, and Bethesda Game Studios for Starfield, have incredible ambitions for their games, and we want to ensure that you receive the best, most polished versions of them. We want to thank everyone for their excitement for Redfall and Starfield. That energy is a huge part of what inspires all of us every day and drives our own excitement for what we are creating. We can't wait to share our first deep dive into the gameplay for both Redfall and Starfield soon. Thank you for your support. So, I mean, delays happen a lot, right? Like, we see delays all the time. Starfield is an interesting one because they did announce the exact day, November 11th, 2022, last year, like way in advance. It seemed like they were pretty confident that Starfield would make it out for the holiday season, but maybe they just missed deadlines. It wasn't coming out how they wanted it to. And we know Bethesda games tend to come out with a lot of jank to them. Like, they're known for that, where there are bugs and glitches, and people get to the point where it's just funny at times, right? But I mean, Starfield, they're going into space. There's no gravity there, so who knows what's going to happen with some of these glitches. But Redfall, I'm not surprised about at all. Like, we haven't seen much of anything. We haven't really seen much of Starfield, but again, we had a solid release date. Redfall, there wasn't even really any marketing around this thing outside of that initial CG trailer. And I will say that there are a lot of hot takes going around after this delay was announced, but if you really sit down and think about it, first half of 2023 for Starfield means probably a 3 to 4 month delay on it. And if it comes down to them delivering a better product, most people will say, okay, I get it. Take your time. We'll see it when you're ready in the first half of 2023. Now, the one issue I have is it still continues this idea that Microsoft's management doesn't really seem to be able to get things together here and get them out correctly, or figure out how to have this roadmap internally to get to the end point of the game coming out. I know this is Bethesda, I get it, but after Microsoft bought them, it's all technically under that Xbox umbrella. Phil Spencer even put out a statement basically saying, yeah, we hear you, we're going to work on doing better. And think about it, this kind of leaves a pretty serious hole in what their original plans were, which was the entire year leading up to Starfield, because not much has really happened from Xbox in 2022 so far, and they were shooting, I assume, for a pretty packed second half of the year, which now is mostly just going to be Forza, at least from what we understand. Stalker 2, it's hard to say what's going on there. Unfortunately, the developers have quite a bit going on currently. And now we have to look towards Microsoft maybe pivoting a bit and coming up with a way to fill in that spot with a third-party Game Pass release. There are a few candidates I was looking at that they could go for, Gotham Knights being one. I guess technically they could do Saints Row. Basically, Microsoft is going to have to get a bit creative here in order to bring value to Game Pass, because Starfield was certainly something a lot of people were looking at, saying, well, it's something I'm going to play hundreds of hours for. Makes sense to sign up for Game Pass then in the holiday season and also get an Xbox. A bit harder now with that not being there. But either way, we should see both of these titles during this showcase, as they're saying, hey, that we're going to have gameplay reveals for both of these here soon, which I guess we can look forward to that second week in June for that to happen. Otherwise, though, we'll hold out for release dates, hopefully when they're a bit closer and a bit more sure that they will come out at that time. If I had to take a guess, I'll drop Starfield into March. Like I said, about a 4-month delay on that one, but we'll find out more, I assume, during their showcase in June. Next up, let's talk about a surprising announcement for the Switch and a whole bunch of Alan Wake information, because Alan Wake Remastered is heading to the Switch. This was during like this Q&A sort of interview thing they were doing with the community manager at Remedy, and they sort of showed them off playing on the Switch Lite. Oh, here's Alan Wake Remastered. Other than off-screen footage, not much to go on. Some people are saying the frame rate looks bad, but based on my experiences trying to film off-screen, if their frame rates aren't matched up, it can look a bit weird. They say in development, all that stuff. So we'll wait for direct capture footage of it to kind of make a determination. But the interesting thing about this is it is native. That's something that people would probably ask immediately after seeing Control be a cloud game on the Switch, and how that's becoming more and more common with these larger games. Alan Wake Remastered, I'm sure it'll be something very interesting to analyze for a place like Digital Foundry to see how it performs. Now, we don't have an exact release date for it. It's supposed to be coming out later on this year, so we'll just keep an eye out for that one. Otherwise, though, they did talk about Alan Wake 2 a bit, and it appears that they are just heads down right now in development working on it, so they don't plan on showing the game this summer or anything, or have any sort of demo, for example, to release. They're looking to have Alan Wake 2 out in 2023, so it's pretty much full speed ahead there. They also announced that there is a show that they've signed on with for AMC to create Alan Wake, which is interesting. I mean, they're really going all in with this intellectual property, and I really like seeing that, because Alan Wake, it was an awesome game on the Xbox 360. I'm glad to see it coming back here with Alan Wake Remastered, giving people a chance to check out a title that I mean, I think really flew under the radar when it first released at that time, and of course working up to Alan Wake 2 next year. But certainly some pretty good announcements here for Alan Wake fans, and I'll be curious to see how the game performs on the Switch, and then of course when we eventually get to see Alan Wake 2, maybe later on this year. Next up, let's talk about EA and a bit of a shakeup around developers who will be working on Need for Speed going forward. Now, there is supposed to be a Need for Speed game coming out towards the end of this year, which once again, I feel like EA is probably going to drop this into the Summer Game Fest showcase, where they'll show off this new Need for Speed game. There have been talks around it having, I think Jeff Grubb mentioned like anime aesthetics for certain things, so it's probably going to be a very stylized, somewhat realistic looking game. That's the best way I can describe it, but we'll see the visuals when they eventually show it off. But it looks like EA is going to be taking this franchise even more seriously now, as we can see this over on gamesindustry.biz, saying Electronic Arts has integrated the development team at Codemasters Cheshire into Criterion Games, doubling the footprint of the Need for Speed studio. The development teams at both locations of Criterion Games are working together on the future of the Need for Speed franchise. Meanwhile, Codemasters Birmingham continues to work on the Formula One franchise. They say this integration builds off the close partnership the two studios have developed over the past few months. Sharing common values and similar cultures, we strongly believe unifying the huge wealth of experience across both teams will help us to deliver the best racing experiences we can for our players. And this could lead to some very interesting Need for Speed titles in the future. Criterion, of course, huge history when it comes to things like Burnout. They have worked on Need for Speeds in the past. I think like Payback was one, for example. But you look on the other side and you bring in Codemasters, who worked on all the Dirt games. I mean, you could put them all together in a studio and come up with some pretty cool stuff there. The issue I had with EA was that they took Criterion, basically delayed Need for Speed for the most part, because they had to run support on Battlefield 2042, which, what a decision that turned out to be with hindsight now, right? But I'm excited to see Need for Speed. I enjoyed Need for Speed Heat quite a bit, so I'm interested to see what's next in the franchise and to hear that they have some pretty good talent working in tandem for the next one years down the road is exciting. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Capcom and their plans over the next year or so, according to their financial report to investors. We can see this posted up by Gamatsu. Capcom will release multiple major new titles by March 31st, 2023. Does include Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. The company plans to release a total of 45 SKUs versus the 24 SKUs shipped in the fiscal year that just ended. Total of 37 million units are expected to be sold overall, with 10 million units coming from new releases and 27 million units from catalog titles. Obviously, Mega Man is going to be part of this. It makes perfect sense here. Mega Man X9, maybe we'll see. But we can see the slate of games that Gamatsu put together here that we can expect from Capcom, which, by the way, Resident Evil Reverse, I thought that was, I didn't think that was going to come out. It was rated kind of recently, and it's still on their slate of games, 2022 for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. We also know that they will have PS5 and Xbox Series versions of Resident Evil 2, 3, and then Biohazard, which, I mean, those games already looked really good on the Xbox One and the PS4, so I'm curious to see how it looks there on the newer platforms. We also had Exo Primal that, I mean, that's the one that faked everyone out when we thought it was Dino Crisis. That's 2023. And then Pragmata, which I'm still really curious as to what that game exactly is. Again, coming out next year. And then Street Fighter 6, still waiting on information for that one. Now, the obvious big reveal that most people are expecting from Capcom at this point is Resident Evil 4 Remake. That has a potential to completely break the internet, depending on how it looks when they actually show it off, as that's like the most popular Resident Evil game completely. So I feel like they announced that and they'll hit these goals no sweat, and that's one that I am really hoping gets shown off over the summer. Who knows, maybe they reveal it at the Game Awards at the end of this year and it doesn't make it into the fiscal year here. I think it makes a lot of sense to show it in the next month or two and then gear up maybe for like a February or March release next year for it. But either way, it looks like Capcom is rolling along, much better shape than they were like years and years ago when they had to rely on Monster Hunter World to basically save the company. But now they're doing pretty well. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you played Alan Wake before? Look at this. 71% said no. Plenty of time to check this game out. Again, if you're mostly like a Switch user, hey, look, it is coming to the Switch. No excuses there anymore. But the remaster itself has been on sale many times even. I've seen it as low as $20 on Amazon through different sales. So I think it's definitely worth checking out. It's such an interesting game, and visually it looks very good still on the PS5 and the Xbox Series and all that. Get ready for the media blitz of Alan Wake, because Remedy looks like they're going all in with this IP. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Kale saying, hope that part of Nintendo's strategy with backwards compatibility, not just because it would be nice to have, but because there's a lot of Switch games I'd really love to see running on better hardware. I mean, we all have to assume that there will be backwards compatibility, right? Like, the reason there wasn't from the Wii U is obvious. Everyone can tell you, look, you're not going to put that a disc in the Switch, but previously, other generations, Nintendo has done pretty good with backwards compatibility. The Game Boy Advance to the DS, you could put the Game Boy Advance game in, the DS to the 3DS, you could use the DS game, and then going from the Wii to the Wii U or the GameCube to the Wii. So, barring any weird thing they do when it comes to the physical media, which I think they're going to do cartridges until it's basically an all-digital world, we should be able to take our Switch game and pop it into whatever the next thing is, which most likely should still be a hybrid system. That would be the one problem we could run into, is if Nintendo, for whatever reason, remembers that they're Nintendo and does something completely strange for the next generation, and it doesn't line up with, say, the Joy-Cons that we have now on the Switch. So I'm still leaning in the idea that it's going to be a better version of the system we have now with the Switch, and that your cartridges will just work completely fine. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today were Starfield and Redfall, both being delayed now into 2023. Do you think Microsoft does anything to fill in that gap for the holiday season? And then also, what about Alan Wake Remastered coming to the Switch? Are you going to pick it up for the first time? Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.